Hello, my name is Danielle Buford, and today my project will be on anxious female characters in literature. For centuries, female characters were put into literature as love interests or background characters. Over time, females were given more important roles such as being villains or even main characters, but they are often portrayed as anxious characters. For this project, I will be analyzing three novels: The Haunting of Hill House, Passing, and The Turn of the Screw. Anxiety is often portrayed within characters, specifically female characters. The author may describe the character's anxiety so that the readers will feel a certain way towards the character. A reader may feel sympathy towards a character who has been locked away their whole life and does not know how to act in the real world. Or a reader may feel uncertainty or anger towards a character who lashes out and harms people for reasons that are unknown to the readers. Anxiety and violence are often associated with one another in literature. The anxiety tends to build up until the character lashes out and becomes violent or a villain. Violence is likely developed as a consequence of high anxiety or a disturbed emotional response to the event at hand. In novels, if the character starts to feel anxious and shows signs of violence, it is often due to an event that caused the character to feel uneasy. Maybe they met someone in their past that brought up a lot of trauma, or they were just uncomfortable in the situation that they were in. The Turn of the Screw was written by Henry James. The female character in the novel, the governess, shows anxiety and at some point becomes rather violent towards another character in the novel. In the novel it states, "We had already jerked straight round, stared, glared again, and seen but the quiet day. With the stroke of the loss I was so proud of he uttered the cry of a creature hurled over an abyss, and the grasp with which I recovered him might have been that of catching him in his fall. I caught him, yes, I held him. It may be imagined with what a passion, but at the end of a minute I began to feel what it truly was that I held. We were alone in the quiet day, and his little heart, dispossessed, had stopped." This quote shows that the governess felt a sense of protection over the boy, Miles, who was in the story, and wanted to protect him at all costs. In the end, the governess became rather violent towards Miles. Passing was written by Nella Larson. The female character Irene is the anxious character in this novel. Irene lets her anxiety and insecurity about her life get the best of her, which ultimately caused her violent nature. In the novel it states, "What happened next Irene Redfield never afterwards allowed herself to remember, never clearly. One moment Clara has been there, a vital glowing thing like a flame of red and gold, the next thing she was gone." This quote seems to foreshadow that Irene may have been involved in the tragic ending of the novel, but she blocked out the true events that happened that night. The Haunting of Hill House was written by Shirley Jackson. In this novel, the main character Eleanor is portrayed as the anxious character. Eleanor was locked away in her house for half of her life because she had to take care of her dying mother and developed a lot of communication problems. In the article, A Chronicle of Anxiety, Dissolving Interiorities and Fractured Exteriorities in the Works of Shirley Jackson, it says, "It is in these moments that Jackson's characters engage in their own internal world building, creating coping mechanisms that often lead them down even more destructive paths." In the article, it shows that the anxious female character is their own self-destructions. People are their own worst enemies. Anxiety and sympathy is often linked closely together as well. A character may have internal challenges going on that are the cause of their anxiety and self-destructive behaviors. Authors tend to make the readers feel empathy for the anxious characters who struggle with their minds daily. A lot of readers may even be able to connect with the characters personally from experiences that they have endured in their life as well. The Turn of the Screw, the governess is someone who struggles throughout the novel with a reoccurring ghost. In the novel, The Turn of the Screw, it says, "An unknown man in a lonely place is a permitted object of fear to a young woman privately bred, and the figure that faced me was, a few more seconds assured me, as little anyone else I knew as it was the image that had been in my mind." This quote shows that the governess is seeing a man, a ghost, if you will, that she thinks is an image that she manifested inside her mind and who is not truly there that she is seeing. The governess seems to care for the people around her in the novel, which makes you sympathize with her a little. In this novel, The Passing, Irene is someone who readers can easily sympathize with. She lives in a world where people of color try to pass as being white in order to be treated a lot more fairly than they were in this book and during this time. In the novel, it states, "I feel like the oldest person in the world with the longest stretch of life before me." This quote shows that Irene seems to be exhausted with living in this world. When people have to pretend to be someone they're not, it can be very exhausting, and they try to shape themselves into someone who people like a lot better, which definitely can feel like you're foreign in your own body. In this novel, The Haunting of Hill House, Eleanor is easily sympathized with because she was locked away in her house for most of her life, taking care of her sick mother, who was also not particularly nice to Eleanor during those times. Eleanor was controlled by her mother and sister, which made the readers feel very bad for her. She was not treated fairly by either of them and caused her to doubt herself throughout the novel. In the article, A Chronicle of Anxiety, Dissolving Interiorities and Fractured Exteriorities in the Works of Shirley Jackson, it says, her characters are often troubled, dismal heroines who have a tenuous grasp on sanity and who find themselves in the midst of a world that seems to reject their very existence. In this article, it seems that Eleanor is troubled who feels as though the world is rejecting her and that she doesn't belong in this world. She feels almost foreign and like alienated from the world. Eleanor feels as though she's not meant to be in this world, except she feels like she belongs at Hill House, which is shown throughout the book. Anxious characters often have a strong character by their side. They are polar opposites and tend to be close because of their opposite personalities. They tend to gravitate more towards each other due to having opposing personalities that tend to fit very close together. The anxious character is always uncertain of their decisions and tend not to be very trusting of other people around them. And the strong character is a lot more confident in themselves and tend to easily trust people. In The Turn of the Screw, it appears that the anxious character is the governess and the strong character is Mrs. Gross. The governess continuously sees a ghost, which was revealed to be Peter Quint, and confides in Mrs. Gross for help. In the novel The Turn of the Screw, it states, she seemed fairly to square herself, plant herself more firmly to utter the wonder of it. Yes, Mr. Quint is dead. This quote shows that the governess looks to Mrs. Gross for reassurance and stability, almost. Mrs. Gross is the strong character here, which helps guide the governess throughout the novel and provides insight and reassuring words to help the governess feel more comfortable in herself. In The Passing, the anxious character would be Irene. Another woman in the book, Claire, does not seem like a strong character to me because she starts to doubt her relationships of her own and often hides from them. In the novel Passing, it says the trouble with Claire was not only that she wanted to have her cake and eat it too, but she wanted to nibble at the cakes of other folk as well. This quote shows that Irene is rather untrusting of Claire and starts to doubt her motives and believes she has ulterior motives to what she originally wants. Claire seems to want what other people have, and Irene notices that Claire should not be trusted, and she holds her at arm's length almost throughout the story. In The Haunting of Hill House, Eleanor is the anxious character. The other female character, Theo, is the strong character that fits together with Eleanor. Eleanor is not confident in herself and constantly doubts herself. She is reluctant to trust anyone, and Theo is really confident in herself and never questions anything. She seems more willing to trust people than Eleanor, who always doubts her decisions and doesn't trust anyone. In the article, A Chronicle of Anxiety, Dissolving Interiorities and Fractured Exteriorities in the Works of Shirley Jackson, it says that her characters are written as anxious, embattled women with complicated relationships with their families, men, and other women. Is no doubt a reflection of her own troubled and personal relationships. In this article, it shows that anxious characters always have complicated relationships with others because they aren't as willing to let people in their life as those who are not anxious. Anxious characters tend to be more held off and don't let their walls down towards other people, and it takes a lot to build that trust with them. Anxious characters are popular in horror novels because the characters portray an uneasiness. These characters are often considered as an unreliable character, and they often create an eerie feeling in the readers that cause the book to be more scarier and grab the attention of the readers more. Horror novels often blur the boundaries between what is real and what is imagined, what is supernatural and what is mundane. The human minds are ultimately the most haunted and unknowable place. The human minds are always uncertain. You never know what's going on in their mind, and it's definitely the most haunted because you can manifest a lot of ghosts inside your head and see a lot of things that aren't truly there, and it causes a lot more of a scary feeling in readers when you almost believe what they're seeing and you bring it into your life and connect with it, and it starts to mess with your head almost. So yeah, thank you for watching.